The Boston Celtics take on the Miami Heat this Wednesday for Game 1 of the officially set Eastern Conference Finals. This will be the third time in 4 years that the Miami Heat and Boston Celtics have met in the Eastern Conference Finals. Jason Tatum is coming off the most points scored in a Game 7 in history, while Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat are coming off another demolishing victory in 6 games in a series where they were not the favorites. I think the Boston Celtics will advance to the NBA Finals, but I do think the Miami Heat will put up a good fight. We're going to get into both teams in today's video, guys, so be sure to stick to the end to hear about Miami as much as I do talk about Boston. It's very important that you guys hear both sides of the spectrum. On the Boston side of things, I think the biggest thing that puts them over the hump outside of their superstars is the new addition to depth that they've acquired. I'm sure a lot of you guys remember, I feel like I've said it a million times on this channel, that the Miami Heat were one shot away from making the NBA Finals last season, and a lot of people are saying that these are the same exact teams and we're just facing up, but the truth is there's no Tyler Hero on the Miami Heat side of things, and now the Boston Celtics have Derek White and current Sixth Man of the Year Malcolm Brogdon. They have both proven to be excellent thus far in the postseason, and nights where the star duo tandem of Jalen and Jason look a bit shaky and that their play styles are overlapping, the depth remains efficient and consistent with the Boston Celtics. During the Philadelphia series, Joe Mazzulla made the adjustment to bring the Time Lord Robert Williams into the starting 5, allowing Marcus Smart to match up with JoJo on the ball and having Robert and Al kind of play in that drop safety net, almost like a wall like Toronto was doing against Giannis, and it provided to be very effective in Game 6 and especially as we just saw in Game 7. I think Bam Adebayo will struggle a lot this series, and that might be a little bit bold to say, especially when you consider the last outing these two had. Bam had a 30-point, 15-rebound game. We'll touch on that a little bit later. It's just that this Boston Celtics team has seen more gifted offensive big men like Joel Embiid than Bam Adebayo, and they've had to guard and game plan and come back from down 3-2 against them. One thing I'll touch on when we talk about the Miami Heat as well is the difference between coaching. Joe Mazzulla and Erik Spoelstra is really night and day. One of them is a rookie head coach. One of them has been to the Eastern Conference Finals 7 out of the 15 years of his coaching tenure, an incredibly impressive feat. Erik Spoelstra is just absolutely gifted. Obviously, the Heat have a huge advantage in experience and situationship there, but I digress. The Boston Celtics on paper are just a much better team than the Miami Heat, and I really could just end the video there and not really explain myself and not do too much time discussing it, but that's what this video is about. Although these teams have a 2-2 record versus each other during the 2023 NBA regular season, it's their last matchup that really interests me because, like I mentioned, Bam Adebayo recorded 30 points and 15 rebounds. Now, Al Horford did not play in this game, Jaylen Brown did not play in this game, but it's also important to note that Jimmy Butler did not play in this game as well, and there was a healthy Tyler Hero. This is a very interesting game because it shows what kind of offensive capability Bam Adebayo has, but it seems like sometimes that offensive ability gets lost or stinted. Again, we'll come back to that when we talk about the Miami Heat later in this video. The Boston Celtics 5 matching up with the Miami Heat, it's just seemingly unfair. Jason and Jalen should do a really good job of getting bodies on Jimmy Butler, paired with Marcus Smart constantly hounding and diving on balls as well. As much as I'm not a fan of him on the offensive side of things, other than his facilitating ability to an extent, sometimes he gets a little carried away, you can't discredit what he does diving for loose balls and hounding and taking charges versus the other opponents. Outside of that, outside of Jimmy Butler's presence and some of Bam Adebayo's presence, you're relying on the Caleb Martins, the Max Struses, the Gabe Vincents, the Duncan Robinsons, the Kevin Loves, these guys in the Miami Heat to rally you to victory in a series where the Boston Celtics have the home court and TD Garden has been rocking this offseason. Now, one thing that's kind of important to note is that the Boston Celtics did struggle a little bit in games where they should have won against Philadelphia, but not only that, going back to the first round against the Atlanta Hawks, they struggled in some of those games. Trae Young obviously and James Harden hit some big shots down the stretch to ultimately win those games. The Miami Heat's fourth quarter offense looks amazing compared, especially when you sit it right next to the Boston Celtics fourth quarter offense. Now, like I said, TD Garden has been rocking, but it is important to note that the Miami Heat have won their last 2 series as the underdogs without home court, but the first round matchup versus the Bucks has a bit of an asterisk on it if you ask me. Obviously all series do, but when Giannis doesn't play for 2.5 games and Coach Bud's brother dies in a car accident in the midst of the series, it's hard to have your head straight. I'm not discrediting the Miami Heat's win or victory. You play who's in front of you, but I digress. Let's switch things over talking about the Miami Heat. And let's just note that healthy Giannis was playing in that game 5. Like I said, a fully healthy Giannis. And the Miami Heat rallied from down 18 points going into the 4th quarter. Chris Middleton was having a great game, and as well as Giannis. I'm pretty sure Chris Middleton started that game 6 for 7 from the field. This Miami team behind Jimmy Butler and Eric Spoelstra has a ton of people inspired. They have championship experience with Kyle Lowry, championship winning experience with Kyle Lowry, and they also have finals experience with Bam, Jimmy Butler. Tyler Hero's not playing, but he was a part of that finals squad as well. A ton of these people on the Miami Heat have been in the finals for that 2020 year. It's no lack of experience here. However, I'd estimate with a 70 to 80% healthy Jimmy Butler, because let's be honest, the ankle does not look fully healed, and an unplayable Tyler Hero with the broken fingers and hand, versing the best team on the NBA in paper, that this would be a truly remarkable win to pull off if the Miami Heat were to win this series. Not to mention, the NBA officials crew is strongly pushing, and I mean strongly pushing, for a Boston Celtics and Los Angeles Lakers NBA Finals, because the ratings for that would be absolutely tremendous. You can never really count Jimmy Butler out. I mean, we saw it in the first round, we saw it again in the second round, but I just do think that the Boston Celtics are going to outpace this team. The new additions of Malcolm and Derek White, they just make the difference when it comes down to bench and role player production. The Miami Heat's 3-point percentage in the Knicks series we saw has finally come back down to earth, and I just don't know if Jimmy Butler has another insane carry job in the tank, especially with that ankle health. I'm really interested to see how game 1 plays out, because I need to know how healthy Jimmy is going into this. They've obviously had almost a week now to rest. That last game was on Friday, so we're talking nearly 5 days of rest. And I'm also interested to see if Tyler Hero even makes an appearance in this series. It's going to be really interesting, because if he does, I know if they were to make the final somehow, he would probably get some minutes in there. But then if he does, is he back on the bench because you don't want to mess up what you got going? And after an injury on your shooting hand, you never really know how someone who gets predominantly the most of his points from shooting the ball comes back and plays in rhythm in a playoff setting. It's going to be really, really interesting to see that dynamic. But like I said, all in all, I have, especially after all the momentum Boston has coming back and storming back from Philly, I got the Boston Celtics probably winning the series in 6 games, maybe 7 if that's what it takes. But what do you guys think? Who's going to win the series and advance to the NBA Finals out in the Eastern Conference? Thank you guys so much for the support on the last 2 videos. If you made it this far, you know I appreciate your support as always. Have a great rest of your day. Stay happy, healthy, and blessed. Peace.